Amazing. And I'm just opening up the PDF.
And recording is started. It will be on YouTube. And Aisha, congratulations, you're the host.
Amazing. Thank you, Anne.
All right, you all have a very nice night.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, well, I will call the review committee meeting to order at 5:05. And if you see me looking away, it's because I have a second screen where I'm typing minutes. There's not an invisible person here. It is my laptop. So next up on the agenda is a discussion of the town manager review process. So just wanted to give you all an update of where we have netted. We have the results back now. We had a few stragglers, as I mentioned a couple meetings ago, but everyone has gotten their reviews in. So Anne has, tabulated them all together. And her and I will be reviewing the results tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. And the next step from there is to share that with Michael as well as Mr. George, who will deliver the review on behalf of the town council. And so that is kind of where we're netted. I was hoping we were going to have goals by this time or by the next meeting so we can kind of have things tied together, but that's not our committee. But did try to plug that along the way. But the review process, I think, went as planned. So I'll pause there and hear if you all have any feedback, and I'll type things as I hear them.
So I guess I'll go first. So our participation on the committee here, so are we going to see a summary before you talk to Michael and Sean, or how is that piece going to work?
Since it's about personnel, and I know Anne had shared an email back with you, Mr. Wood.
Yep.
Yeah, about the, the legality and reasons in which how it has to be done. I'm just going back to that email now, but for some reason.
It's okay. I read it. Actually, read it today. So
okay,
that process makes sense, but it's well, I won't say it's a closed loop, but it really is a closed loop without the committee reviewing it, the results at all, and kind of just tabulating, then delivering it, and that's the end of it.
I believe there is. I'm trying to outsmart Outlook. I don't think I'm going to. I'll be able to share an executive summary, but I wouldn't be able to share who said what.
No. That's what I was asking about, is the executive summary. Yeah.
All right, let me just go back to that note.
I might still have it open myself. 1 second.
Yeah. So that brief update, that number 4, and to you all, that could definitely happen once I have my conversation with Anne. But yeah, that's as far as we can go, just because it is his overall bit. And I know in the past we've all sat together an executive summary, but that was more about executive session. But that was more about his review versus his about his contract versus his review. But to that point, I think there'll have to be something that we must be able to share, because when we get to the contract, folks need to know year over year how he scored to be able to then have a fully knowledgeable conversation about the contract. So I hear that. It's just the making sure that we aren't, doing anything that should be done in executive session in this committee is the issue. But I will get those details to you all at our next session, which could potentially be before our next meeting. If everything goes well, I could try to schedule something maybe a week out from now, or maybe even less, just for us to review. But would want Jason to weigh in just to make sure that I'm not sharing anything here to the public before Michael knows. And that's always been the rub of this process. So I'll get those details together and we can see if we can do that there.
Okay, that's good with me.
Mr. Souza, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just trying to little information from you.
Yep.
Will you yourself and also doing this report, when you meet with Mr. Dutton and discuss, will you discuss items that council members brought up or just a number?
No, it'll be all the open text thing. The whole thing will be shared with him. So he will
Okay.
have 9 reviews to review, but then he'll have that compilation that's what Ann and I are pulling together to see all of things pulled together. So he'll be able to read individual responses, but then, you know, what I'm hoping to do is provide themes. So let's say I read all 9 and 9 have something to say about Rainbow's End Park. So one theme would be, we have to talk about parks or something, you know, whatever. I'm using something very generic, but that would be something that he would see on the summary. And then he would be able to read line by line what everyone else had to say.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
There are ghosts in the background.
Oh yeah, there's another citizen, but not of age to be in a meeting. 4-year-olds are not allowed. So that Mr. Souza, yes, he'll definitely get all of our responses without names. I believe that gets pulled off into just one document. Okay.
Okay.
All right. The next part of this too, I wanted to outline is the next steps. I think we talked about in one of our previous meetings, ensuring that there's something happening in 6 months. Quarterly would be great, but knowing that the goals haven't been presented yet, doing something at the end of March might be premature. Just thinking about, we meet twice a month, January, you know, we would get something, we would probably vote on it in February to provide feedback on performance for the month of March is a little bit a short window. So perhaps that's something that we do, we can decide on if that's something we want to do in June or July as the budget season wraps up and, you know, things get clearer, we'll have a new board. Is there something that we want to ensure that we're checking in on to kind of keep tabs on the goals that we have set as a council?
We had talked about that before. In effect, had talked about even changing the contract cycle because the budget process is the biggest driver of most of what happens with the town activities. So I think it's appropriate at the end of June or thereabouts to kind of have a year review or a 6-month review at that point, kind of talk about the goals ahead for the next 6 months.
Yep. And that one will probably we'll have to decide how that will be executed. We don't have a form for that. We don't have a bespoke process. It could just be as simple as taking the ordinance that has the goals and then, you know, having another rating or having another thing that aligns to that, and that's what the 6-month review looks like. But that's just something we'll have to think about, and we can mention that back in committee reports, or we can maybe even make it a discussion item for folks at the next meeting to discuss as a council if that's something that people would be open to, and you know how they may want to have some inputs in that process that we can then craft and create based off their feedback. Okay. I think I have that down. I'm trying to find the button to not indent on a PowerPoint. I mean, on a PDF. I haven't found it yet, but I will edit that when I have before I send this to Anne. Is there anything else in the review process that we wanted to share? I know there was questions about the form. Did anyone have issues with the form? Did you feel like you were able to share all the feedback you needed to share in the form? Was there anything missing that we might want to update and take as a action item to, again, present back to the council as an enhancement?
Well, myself, when I first looked at it, I'm saying, wait a minute, we're 2 months away from the end of the year and we're being asked to do an evaluation till the end of the year. Okay, so I think periodic evaluations would take care of that situation. Like Bill was saying, like if we do one in June or something like that, then you're keeping up with things. When you have employees, you evaluate them on an ongoing basis. You don't wait till the end of the year and evaluate them. And this is what I think we have to do, is we have to do an ongoing basis and see what's going on, because when we write the goals up, the goals might say, in 3 months, for an example, this should happen, or a year from now, we expect this to happen. Well, then you look at that, and that 3 months is going by, then should be evaluating to see if, in fact, that goal was met, or in what phase of the process it's still in, to see if it's gotten enough attention, or is it just sitting on a shelf collecting dust?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You all set, Frank?
Yes, thank you.
So I did obviously read through the evaluation sheet and the goals. I think what we can do in the future is, maybe the form stays as it is or very similar. I think that a periodic review of the goals, separate from the review process, is always a good idea. Whether that happens quarterly, not as an evaluation, but just to get feedback on the goals and how they're being approached or achieved, gives us feedback for the evaluation form. I think we might want to take a look at the form, and there's a couple items, and I don't have examples right now, but there's a couple of examples of where the question may be good, but it's subjective because I'm not in the building, so I don't see the day-to-day. I answer the question based on feedback of other people, which is really hearsay. I don't see the actual interaction of the town manager with that person or that activity. And that's the only major issue I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, another tool that we have, because it is a goal, and the goal is usually done by, I believe it's a resolution. It's something that goes before, the public. We can just have that be a standing thing every quarter in his town manager's report, is give an update on the goals. Like that could be as simple as that. And then we can have that inputted in our packets, and everyone has them, and we can spend that time. I know we talk about the school and we talk about the fire department, so we'll have to brace ourselves on how long that that town manager report would be. But that's something we can absolutely do. Or even if there's ones that are time locked, to your point, Frank, that said that would need to be done, between January and June, and we look at those ones specifically, see if they've been opened or closed. And then in the next quarter, then we look at what's happening for the latter half of the year. So I think that's an easy solve for us to stay accountable. I'm happy to share that feedback with the council clerk as well. That's a new thing for us as well, having this town manager report kind of standing item piece. So that's a new thing that we can, we can leverage that update within the town manager's report.
One more thing, if I may. When I get those town manager reports, when he writes them up and sends them in, I kind of keep them. I look at them, and I kind of follow out on some of them. Okay, and it's really some of the things that it's done in there comes up again 2 months down the road. Wait a minute, you said it was done over here, and that's why I think this periodic evaluation by the committee or someone we'll keep abreast of that stuff and say, well, you can't say it's done and then come back and say you're still working on it.
That's
And
fair.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. And that's something, if we're not on the committee, do we want to have something be written in the rules and procedures of the council, that the president has to ensure, something's happening, to avoid situations like that or monitor situations like that, have conversations, be the person that is responsible for ensure, or the vice president is responsible for holding that person, the town manager, whomever that might be, accountable to say, there's a discrepancy in timing. Can you help us understand things like that? But I think any counselor could do that. But if we wanted it to be more formal, we could definitely see if we can make a proposal.
At one point in time, I was thinking, well, maybe this is something that we can bring up under when he asks if there's anything you want report from the town manager, what happened here, type of situation. But then I said, I don't know, do we want all this out there on the floor?
I mean, I don't see
because it could be, like you said, it could be construed as part of an evaluation of his performance, which shouldn't be done on the open floor.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends too if it's about something specific. So we said Rainbow's End was done in January, but then we're hearing about it being done again in June. Like, that's something I think if it's being said at a meeting, you could totally ask those types of questions. I think it's when it gets to, the how, the who, and the whys of that might get into the executive session pieces. But we can ask Jason and see what he would recommend for a situation like that.
Yeah.
Town council, spelled differently. Okay. I have that. Anything else that we want to touch on?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. So I have 4 things. We'll add an agenda discussion item about the 6-month review piece. And then maybe what we add there too is that quarterly update to the town manager report. We'll make it a 2-fer. One will be an actual 6-month evaluation. One will just be a quarterly update in the town manager meeting. I will bring that feedback about the question that's more about, being eyes on the person when it comes to, like, are they nice in the office question, making sure we update that one. And then follow up with town council to see how we can address ongoing issues within open meeting that ties back to goals and performance. All right. So is there any public comment?
Yes, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Have you guys considered a 360 evaluation? I'm assuming you know what that means.
Yes.
I think we did that a couple years ago.
Yeah, so the way we had the department heads do a piece, but then the town manager also has to report, like, do a self-evaluation of how he believes he's perceived himself to have performed.
I operated under that premise for the last 10 years of my employment, and I found it to be incredibly valuable because as a committee person, I have no opportunity to have input as to where I view performance. So I think that you ought to re-look at the 360 evaluation. There are issues because I think people that are appointed by him or maybe hired by him may be afraid to be honest about what's going on. So that has to be very carefully done, and it has to be done with total anonymity.
That's how it was done previously. We didn't get a lot of negative feedback from the 360 that we had done. It was done electronically, without and it was done by a committee. So none of us had, you know, computer science. I know the last meeting we had IP address figuring out, like we didn't do any of that. We just read the information and then we reported out on it. But we can definitely bring that back.
I'm sorry.
For the department heads to have input as well, and then have Michael's
You guys don't know, you guys don't know everything that goes on. It's pretty hard to understand and know what's going on in town unless you have regular meetings with people. So I just think it's very valuable to have feedback on performance from a variety of people that he reports to you guys and report to him.
Yep.
That's both professional and volunteers.
Well, the volunteers is not something that we've done, so that's something that we could look to add to the process. Is getting committee or commissions and.
I think board, committee, and commission feedback, whether it's individuals or the chair from those people, or if it's full committee. I don't think you get to the full committee, but I really do think it's highly valuable to get more broader input on performance. That's all I had to ask.
Okay. Right.
Anything else, Aisha?
Nope, sorry, I was just typing.
That's okay.
If there's
Well,
no
I'll
other
make-
public comment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor?
You gotta take a roll.
Roll call.
Call.
Yes, yes, even though I can see you all. Hold on here, I'm just. Mr. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Souza.
Yes.
Yes, 3 in favor, none against. And we're done within 30 minutes. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Mr. Hunt, for joining us this evening. I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you.